The Deep Space Monitoring Station hung silently in Earth's orbit, its arrays of sensors constantly scanning the vastness of space. Inside the station, rows of screens flickered with data streams, watched over by tired operators completing another routine shift. Nothing exciting ever happened here, until today. Officer Tom Reed's eyes snapped open as his console lit up with an urgent alert. He blinked twice, making sure he wasn't seeing things. The signal was unlike anything in their database, a pattern that repeated with perfect precision, yet carried an unmistakable tone of desperation. "Sir," Tom called out, his voice echoing through the quiet control room. "You need to see this." Station Chief Williams hurried over, his coffee mug still steaming. As he leaned over Tom's shoulder, his expression changed from mild annoyance to serious concern. "How long has this been broadcasting?" "Just picked it up, sir. It's coming from the Centauri arm, about 40 light-years out." Within minutes, the signal was being relayed to Earth's United Defense Force headquarters. Commander Jack Stone stood before the massive wall screen in the emergency briefing room, his weathered face illuminated by the pulsing pattern of the alien distress call. Around him, Earth's military council members watched in tense silence. "The signal matches known luminary communication patterns," announced Dr. Miller, the chief xenolinguist. She pointed to specific peaks in the waveform. "They're the most advanced medical species we've encountered. If they're calling for help." Commander Stone nodded grimly. The Luminary were peaceful beings, masters of biological science and healing arts. Their technology had already saved millions of lives across known space. But they were fragile creatures, evolved under the gentle light of a dying star. "Decode complete," a computer voice announced. The message materialized on screen. Asterisk to all who hear this. The Shadowcrest Empire attacks. Our healing centers are targeted. We cannot defend ourselves. Please help. We have children. Asterisk. The council chamber erupted in urgent whispers. The Shadowcrest were notorious expansionists, a warrior species that had been pushing their borders outward for decades. But attacking the Luminary, that was crossing a line that even they hadn't dared before. "We all know what they're after," Stone said, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "The Luminary's regeneration technology. In Shadowcrest hands, it would make them unstoppable." Admiral Hayes, a veteran of Earth's first contact wars, spoke up. "The Luminary won't accept our help. They think we're savages. Deathworlders." She spat the last word like a curse. It was true. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy, evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme weather, deadly predators, and constant natural disasters. Humans were considered barbaric by many species. Their technology was deemed primitive because they still used physical projectiles and nuclear power. Their bodies were called terrifying for their ability to survive injuries that would kill most sentient species. Stone turned to face the council. "With all due respect, Admiral, we can't let that stop us. The Luminary may fear us, but the Shadowcrest need to fear us more." The chamber fell silent as General Rivera stood up. As head of the council, his word would carry the most weight. "Commander Stone, what are you suggesting?" "We send the fleet. All of it." Stone's words hung in the air like a physical presence. "We show the galaxy that being a Deathworlder doesn't make us monsters. It makes us protectors." Rivera looked around the room, meeting each council member's eyes. "The Shadowcrest have never faced humanity in open warfare. They don't know what we're capable of." "Exactly," Stone said, allowing himself a slight smile. "They don't know that we can run for days without rest, that we can fight with broken bones, that our primitive bullets can pierce their energy shields because they never expected physical projectiles. They don't know that we're really good at surviving things that should kill us." One by one, the council members began to nod. Rivera pressed his palm to the vote scanner. "Motion to deploy the fleet in defense of the Luminary." "Approved." As the council chamber emptied, Stone remained, staring at the distress signal's pulsing pattern. Somewhere out there, A peaceful species was about to learn why evolving on a death world had its advantages. And the Shadowcrest Empire was about to learn why you should never corner a species that had survived everything a hostile universe could throw at them. The age of the Deathworlders had begun. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth moved as one. Within hours of the Council's decision, shipyards around the planet blazed with activity. The sight would have terrified most alien species, humans working in conditions that would kill lesser beings, welding in extreme temperatures, handling radioactive materials with protective suits that other species considered suicidally inadequate. Commander Stone stood on the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, watching as the massive form of the Terra Force One took shape. The flagship of humanity's fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. While other species built their ships with elegant energy weapons and delicate shield generators, the Terra Force One bristled with railguns, missile pods, and thick armor plates. Impressive, isn't it? Captain Lisa Roy appeared beside him, her dark eyes reflecting the welding sparks that lit up the shipyard. The aliens called our ship designs crude during the last diplomatic meeting. Wait until they see what crude can do. Stone nodded, checking the latest readiness reports on his tablet. How are the Marines adapting to the new powered armor? Better than expected. The Galactic Council said we were crazy to put humans in walking tanks, but our troops love them. Private Cooper broke 3 endurance records yesterday. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Ambassador Green, who looked both excited and concerned. Commander, you need to see this. Our long-range scanners picked up several alien observation ships. They're watching us prepare. Stone smiled. Good. Let them watch. Let them see what happens when humanity goes to war. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Ships from every nation joined the growing fleet in lunar orbit. Russian heavy cruisers, designed to withstand the crushing pressures of Venus's atmosphere during training. Chinese stealth vessels that used outdated physical camouflage instead of energy cloaking. American carriers that could launch swarms of primitive fighter craft. In the ship's mess hall, Stone addressed the gathered crew of Terra Force One. The aliens call us Deathworlders because we survived a planet that should have killed us. They call us primitive because we still use explosive weapons and armored vehicles. Today, we show them why that makes us strong. The crew cheered, their voices echoing through the metal corridors. Many of them bore scars that would have been fatal to other species. Some had cybernetic implants that aliens considered horrifyingly invasive. All of them were volunteers, eager to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. Final preparations moved quickly. The fleet's medical bay was stocked with barbaric supplies like blood bags and surgical tools. The armory was filled with bullets, explosives, and backup weapons, things energy weapon-dependent species had abandoned centuries ago. Fleet status report. Stone commanded, standing on Terra Force One's bridge. All ships report ready, sir, the communications officer announced. 47 capital ships, 12 carriers, and support vessels. The largest human fleet ever assembled. Stone took a moment to look at each bridge crew member. The Shadowcrest think they can prey on peaceful species like the Luminary. They've never fought humans before. They don't know that we come from a world where everything tried to kill us, and we killed it back. Sir, the sensor operator called out. The alien observation ships are transmitting something. They're warning the Shadowcrest about us. Perfect, Stone said, settling into his command chair. Sound battle stations. Red alert klaxons blared throughout the fleet. Crews rushed to their positions. Marines sealed their armor, and weapon systems hummed to life. The massive engines of humanity's ships ignited, pushing against the darkness of space. All ships, this is Commander Stone. Set course for luminary space. Today we show the galaxy that being called Deathworlders isn't an insult. It's a promise. A promise that we can protect those who can't protect themselves. As the fleet accelerated away from Earth, the alien observers transmitted one last message to their homeworlds. The Deathworlders are coming, and they are bringing their war machines. The greatest journey in human history had begun, and the Shadowcrest Empire was about to learn why you should never make humans angry. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the luminary system. The sight that greeted them made even hardened veterans pause. Hundreds of Shadowcrest warships surrounded the beautiful crystal cities of the luminary homeworld, their dark hulls blocking out the starlight. Status report. Commander Stone ordered, his voice steady despite the tension on Terraforce One's bridge. Shadowcrest fleet outnumbers us 3-1. Sir, reported Lieutenant Kelly from Tactical. They're using energy shields and plasma weapons. No physical armor detected. Stone allowed himself a small smile. Perfect. They're not ready for us. Launch fighters. Tell the Marines to prepare for boarding actions. The human fleet moved forward in formation. The Shadowcrest ships turned to face them, probably expecting the newcomers to retreat at the sight of their superior numbers. They were wrong. Sir, incoming transmission from the Shadowcrest flagship, announced the communications officer. A harsh voice filled the bridge. Primitive Deathworlders, this is not your concern. Leave now or be destroyed. Stone's reply was simple. All ships, weapons free. What followed would be remembered in galactic history as the moment everyone learned why humans were different. The Shadowcrest fired first, their energy weapons lighting up space with beautiful but predictable patterns. They expected the human ships to evaporate under their advanced technology. Instead, the human fleet tanks simply took the hits. Thick armor plates, designed to withstand the crushing pressures of gas giants, shrugged off energy beams that would have vaporized lighter alien ships. Then humanity responded. Fire all weapons, Stone commanded. Show them how primitives fight. Railguns roared silently in space, launching solid metal projectiles at speeds that turned them into unstoppable spears. The Shadowcrest's energy shields, designed to stop plasma and laser fire, did nothing against physical objects moving at relativistic speeds. The first volley tore through a dozen enemy ships. Sir, the Shadowcrest are adjusting their shields. Kelly reported excitedly. They're trying to reconfigure for physical impacts. Too late, Stone said. Launch missiles. Nuclear-tipped missiles, weapons that most species had abandoned as too primitive, streaked across space. The Shadowcrest, focused on stopping railgun rounds, never saw them coming. Explosions bloomed in silence, electromagnetic pulses shutting down sophisticated alien electronics. Marines, you're up, Stone ordered. Show them what Deathworlders can do in close combat. Human drop pods, launched from carriers, streaked toward damaged Shadowcrest ships. Inside each pod, Marines in powered armor waited eagerly. Their suits, powered by dangerous nuclear batteries, made them walking tanks by alien standards. The Shadowcrest were about to learn why that was terrifying. First Squad, led by Sergeant Adams, breached the hull of a Shadowcrest cruiser. The aliens fired their energy weapons, expecting the humans to die instantly in the vacuum of space. Instead, the Marines just kept coming. Their armor wasn't pretty or elegant. It was built to work in the crushing depths of Earth's oceans and the vacuum of space equally well. They're running, Adams reported over the comm. They've never seen anything like us. We're clearing decks faster than they can respond. On another ship, Marines demonstrated why humans were considered insane by alien standards. They purposely breached hulls to use the explosive decompression as a weapon. They threw grenades in zero gravity, calculating trajectories in their heads. They kept fighting even when injured, their bodies able to handle trauma that would kill most species instantly. Commander, the sensor officer shouted, luminary ships are launching from the surface. They're coming to help us. Indeed, elegant crystal ships rose from the planet's surface, their crews having watched in awe as the Deathworlders turned the tide of battle. The Luminary, despite their fear of humans, had chosen to fight alongside them. Stone watched as a Shadowcrest battleship tried to target the Luminary vessels. Not today, he growled. All ships, Protect those crystal ships. Show the galaxy that humans don't just destroy. We protect. The Terraforce One's main gun, a massive railgun that ran the length of the ship, spoke once. The Shadowcrest battleship ceased to exist. As the battle continued, news spread across the galaxy. The Deathworlders weren't just strong. They weren't just tough. They were the protectors that the peaceful species had been waiting for. And the Shadowcrest Empire was learning this lesson the hard way. Victory celebrations on the human fleet came to an abrupt end as space itself seemed to tear open. Hundreds of Shadowcrest reinforcement ships poured through the massive jump points, their dark hulls now modified with crude armor plating. They had learned from their first defeat, but so had humanity. 48 hours without rest, and they're still coming. Captain Roy reported on Terraforce One's bridge. The crew looked tired but determined. While other species needed regular rest cycles, humans could push through exhaustion, running on nothing but caffeine and determination. Commander Stone studied the tactical display, noting how the Shadowcrest ships now moved differently. They've adapted to our railguns. Good. Time to show them why humans are called unpredictable. A luminary ambassador, glowing faintly with bioluminescent patterns that showed stress, stood on the bridge. Commander, we must tell you something about the Shadowcrest. They have been experimenting on our people. The bridge fell silent. The ambassador's crystalline hands shook as they projected images of luminary healing centers converted into research labs. They want to combine our healing technology with their weapons. They have done this before to other species. This is why they grow so powerful. Stone's face hardened. Humans had their own dark history of experiments on unwilling subjects, which is why they had sworn to prevent such atrocities. Send word to all ships. No more holding back. The next hours tested even humanity's legendary endurance. The Shadowcrest attacked in waves, trying to exhaust the human crews. They didn't understand that humans had evolved to pursue prey until it dropped from exhaustion. That tiredness only made humans more dangerous. Hull breach on Deck 7. An officer reported as a plasma beam finally penetrated Terraforce One's armor. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut automatically. Casualties? Stone asked, gripping his chair as the ship shuddered. None, sir. The crew? They're still working in vacuum suits. They say they can fix it. The luminary ambassador watched in amazement as human repair crews worked in conditions that would kill most species instantly. They wielded metal in space, their suits radiation warnings screaming, yet they kept going. But even humans had limits. After 3 days of continuous battle, ships began running low on ammunition. The mighty railguns fell silent one by one. Emergency power replaced main systems. Sir, Captain Roy said quietly, the Shadowcrest are targeting civilian areas now. They're bombing healing centers. Stone watched as beautiful crystal cities shattered under the bombardment. The luminaries' peaceful nature had left them with no defenses of their own. They had trusted in the goodness of other species, and now they were paying the price. New contacts. The sensor officer suddenly shouted. Multiple signatures. It's the Shadowcrest's main battle fleet. The tactical display filled with hundreds of new enemy ships. The human fleet, already exhausted and damaged, now faced the full might of the Shadowcrest Empire. Commander, the luminary ambassador spoke softly. Your people have fought bravely. None would blame you for retreating. Our species is not worth the extinction of yours. Stone stood up, his tired muscles protesting. Ambassador, do you know why we're called Deathworlders? Not just because we survived a harsh world, but because we learned something from it. He turned to face the crew. We learned that when things are at their worst, when survival seems impossible, that's when humans become truly dangerous. He pressed the fleet-wide communication button. All ships, this is Commander Stone. The Shadowcrest think they can break us because we're tired. They think they can win because they have numbers, but they don't understand what we are. The crew straightened in their seats as he continued. We are humans. We survived an ice age with sticks and stones. We crossed oceans on wooden boats. We reached space in metal cans powered by explosions. And we did it all because we simply refused to give up." He looked at the tactical display, where the Shadowcrest fleet approached like a wave of darkness. "Now they'll learn what happens when you force humans to get creative. All ships, implement Operation Last Stand. Show them why the galaxy fears Deathworlders." As tired crews moved to their stations, Stone turned to the amazed Luminary Ambassador. "You're about to see why humans are at their most dangerous when victory seems impossible." Operation Last Stand began with what the Shadowcrest thought was a retreat. The human fleet scattered, breaking into small groups that fled in different directions. The enemy commanders laughed, thinking the Deathworlders had finally broken. They didn't understand that humans were never more dangerous than when they seemed defeated. "All ships, execute guerrilla protocols," Commander Stone ordered from Terraforce 1. The ship's reactor was running hot, radiation warnings blaring in sections of the ship. The crew ignored them, just as their ancestors had ignored the dangers of fire when they first mastered it. The human fleet's tactics changed completely. Small groups of ships would appear from nowhere, strike hard at Shadowcrest's supply lines, and vanish again. They used tricks that spacefaring races had dismissed as too primitive, hiding in asteroid fields, using dead ships as ambush points, even letting their reactors run dark to appear as space debris. "Sir," Captain Roy reported, "the Luminary healers have found a way to help us." She gestured to where crystal-skinned aliens worked alongside human medics. "Their healing technology, combined with our natural regeneration, means our wounded can return to duty in hours instead of days." The Luminary Ambassador watched in amazement as injured humans, newly healed, immediately returned to their posts. "In all our history," they said, "we have never seen a species use pain as motivation rather than deterrence." Stone nodded. "Humans don't break under pressure, Ambassador. We adapt. We evolve. And right now, we're teaching the Shadowcrest why that's terrifying." The next phase of the operation proved this point. Human ships began using radiation from their reactors as weapons, deliberately venting plasma in ways that other species considered suicidal. The Shadowcrest, with their sensitive instruments, found their targeting systems blinded. "Message from the Chinese Stealth Squadron," a communications officer announced. "Operation Trojan Horse is ready." Stone allowed himself a grim smile. "Begin the broadcast." Human communication channels suddenly filled with false orders, fake distress calls, and conflicting information, all in Shadowcrest frequencies. The enemy fleet, unused to such psychological warfare, fell into confusion. "They're breaking formation," Tactical reported excitedly. "The Shadowcrest ships are having trouble coordinating." Marine teams in powered armor used this chaos to their advantage, boarding enemy ships using methods that seemed insane to other species. They cut their way through hulls, used explosive decompression to move faster, and fought in ways that ignored what aliens considered possible. "Commander," the Luminary Ambassador said, watching the tactical display, "your people's actions, by our standards, they are completely irrational." "That's our greatest weapon," Stone replied. "A galaxy calls it human insanity. We call it thinking outside the box." The Shadowcrest learned this lesson hard as human ships began appearing inside their formation, using yet another primitive trick: momentum slingshots around stellar bodies, a technique other races had abandoned once they developed better drives. "Sir," Sensor Control called out, "multiple ships approaching. They're not Shadowcrest. They're everyone else." Indeed, ships from various alien races were arriving. They had been watching the humans fight, seeing how these primitive Deathworlders had stood against impossible odds. Now they had chosen their side. A new signal reached the fleet. The Shadowcrest Supreme Commander, speaking directly. "What are you? How do you keep fighting? Your tactics defy logic. Your people ignore radiation, vacuum, and death itself. What kind of monsters are you?" Stone's response was broadcast to all ships, human and alien alike. We're not monsters. We're humans. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day, so we learned to kill back. We survived ice ages, predators, and our own wars. We split atoms, walked on our moon, and reached the stars using explosions and math. He paused, letting his words sink in. But most importantly, we learned that the strongest species isn't the one that can hit hardest. It's the one that can take a hit and keep fighting. Now, thanks to you, the galaxy is learning why that matters. The luminary ambassador's crystals glowed with understanding. Now I see why the universe made you so resilient. You were meant to be protectors, not monsters. All ships, Stone commanded, prepare for final assault. Let's show them what humans do best. The impossible. The arrival of other alien species changed everything. Ships from 24 different worlds now orbited the luminary homeworld, their crews watching in fascination as human medical teams worked alongside luminary healers, combining Earth medicine with alien technology. Commander Stone stood in Terraforce One's newly established diplomatic chamber, surrounded by holographic representatives from various species. The luminary ambassador spoke first, their crystalline form glowing with respect. We have seen your warriors fight with broken bones. We have watched your engineers work in radiation that would kill us instantly. Yet here you stand, protecting our children rather than conquering our worlds. That's because humans understand something fundamental, Stone replied, his voice carrying across the chamber. True strength isn't about destruction. It's about being strong enough to protect others. A reptilian diplomat from the Crescent Worlds leaned forward. We have reviewed your species' military history. You fought wars that would have ended most civilizations. How did you survive? Stone activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Because humans learned from every war. Each conflict taught us something. When we were primitive, we learned to use fire. When we were tribal, we learned to form alliances. When we split the atom, we learned the responsibility of power. The chamber filled with murmurs as scenes from human history played out. The aliens watched in amazement as humans progressed from stone tools to spacecraft in a fraction of the time most species took. Your weapons are primitive, noted a jellyfish-like being floating in a gravity bubble. Yet they pierce Shadowcrest shields designed to stop energy weapons. Exactly. Stone smiled. We kept what worked. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. A bullet doesn't care about your energy shield. A railgun round doesn't stop because you have advanced technology. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, something unprecedented was happening. Luminary healing technology, combined with human medical knowledge, was creating treatments that neither species could have developed alone. Injured crew members from all species were being treated, breaking down centuries of prejudice. Commander, Captain Roy reported, entering the chamber. The Shadowcrest fleet is changing formation. Their leadership is fighting among themselves. Some ships are refusing to attack. This news sparked intense discussion among the assembled aliens. The Shadowcrest Empire had never shown weakness before. The sight of humans, creatures they had dismissed as primitive, standing against them had shaken their confidence. Listen, Stone addressed the chamber. The Shadowcrest thought they could break us because we're Deathworlders. They didn't understand that surviving a deadly world made us stronger, not weaker. We learned to adapt, to think differently, to keep fighting when any sensible species would give up. He walked around the room, making eye contact with each diplomat. Now we offer that strength to protect others. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to make it safe for all species, even the ones who fear us. The luminary ambassador's crystals pulsed with emotion. You have already changed the galaxy, Commander. When you answered our distress call, you showed everyone that being strong doesn't mean being cruel. Reports continued to arrive. More alien ships joining the fleet, more Shadowcrest vessels breaking ranks. The empire that had terrorized peaceful species for generations was facing something they couldn't understand. A species that fought harder when things seemed hopeless. Sir, Tactical reported, We're detecting massive energy readings from the remaining Shadowcrest ships. They're preparing for one final attack." Stone nodded. It was the response he expected. "Send word to all ships, humans and aliens alike. We show them our answer to their aggression." He turned to the assembled diplomats. "Your species called us Deathworlders, thinking it was an insult. Today we show you why it's a badge of honor." The chamber filled with agreement. Species that had once feared humans now stood with them. The Luminary, masters of healing, worked to prepare for casualties. The combined fleet moved into formation, each species contributing their strengths. All ships, Stone commanded, his voice carrying to every vessel in the fleet, prepare for the final battle. Today we prove that the strongest warriors can also be the greatest protectors. The galaxy was about to witness why challenging humanity's resolve was the last mistake the Shadowcrest Empire would ever make. The final battle began with a sight the galaxy would never forget. The combined fleet of humans and aliens faced the remaining Shadowcrest ships, which had formed into a massive wedge formation. The Shadowcrest Supreme Commander had chosen to lead from the front, their flagship bristling with weapons stolen from conquered species. All ships, battle stations, Commander Stone ordered from Terraforce One's bridge. Show them what Deathworlders do best. The Shadowcrest struck first, their weapons turning space into a deadly light show. But this time, they faced not just humans, but a fleet that combined the best of every species. Luminary ships projected healing fields. Alien vessels with advanced shields protected the human ships as they closed in for their primitive attacks. "Main batteries, fire when ready," Stone commanded. The human fleet's railguns roared one last time, their depleted uranium rounds screaming across space. Behind them came a wave of nuclear missiles, their outdated technology proving once again why humans had kept them. "Marines, you're cleared for boarding action," Captain Roy announced. Give them hell. What followed would be told in stories across the galaxy for generations. Human Marines in powered armor cut their way into Shadowcrest ships like angry demons. They fought in ways that defied alien logic, using explosive decompression to propel themselves through ships, fighting on despite injuries that would kill most species, working together with an almost hive mind efficiency born from thousands of years of warfare. "Sir," Tactical reported, "the Shadowcrest flagship's shields are down." Stone nodded grimly. "Bring us alongside. I'm going to end this personally." Despite protests from the alien diplomats, Stone led a boarding team onto the Shadowcrest flagship. They fought through corridors filled with toxic gas. Only humans could survive it. They pushed through radiation zones. Their bodies could take it. They kept fighting when artificial gravity failed. Humans had trained for this. Finally, they reached the bridge. The Shadowcrest Supreme Commander stood waiting, their biomechanical armor making them tower over the humans. "You primitives," the alien leader growled. "Why won't you just die?" Stone's response was simple. "Because we're human. We don't know how to give up." The fight that followed was brutal. The Supreme Commander's advanced armor faced off against Stone's primitive-powered suit. But where the alien relied on technology, Stone used human ingenuity. He used the environment, the ship's artificial gravity, everything at his disposal. "Your species makes no sense," the Supreme Commander gasped as Stone's armor-enhanced punch cracked their advanced plating. "You use explosions to travel space. You fight with metal projectiles. You survive things that should kill you." "That's right," Stone said, delivering the final blow. "We're primitives who never forgot our roots. We're Deathworlders who learned to protect instead of destroy. And you just learned why that makes us unstoppable." With their leader captured, the remaining Shadowcrest ships surrendered. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy fell to a species they had dismissed as primitive savages. In the aftermath, the Luminary homeworld became a symbol of unity. Human medical techniques merged with Luminary healing technology. Other species began adopting human primitive innovations, realizing that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. "Commander," The luminary ambassador said during the victory celebration. You have changed how the galaxy sees Deathworlders. We feared you because you were different. Now we understand that your strength makes you the best protectors we could have. Stone looked out at the combined fleet, where human ships now flew proudly alongside alien vessels. That's what humans do best, Ambassador. We take our challenges and turn them into strengths. The story spread across the stars, how a distress signal had called the Deathworlder Armada, and how humanity had proven that being primitive didn't mean being weak. It was the beginning of a new age in the galaxy, where the species others feared became the guardians everyone needed. As Terraforce One prepared to return to Earth, Stone made one final fleet-wide announcement. Remember this day. Not because we won, but because we showed the galaxy what humans truly are. We're not monsters or savages. We're protectors. And any species that threatens peace will learn why you don't anger the primitives who conquered death itself. The Deathworlders had come of age, and the galaxy was better for it.